Do you really believe an elite defense all by itself can take us back to the top? Come on, man, we've seen this movie before, and we know the story is way more complicated than that. What's happening in Seattle right now isn't just about X's and O's, it's about identity. I'm Ethan Carter, and today we're going to dive deep into what's really defining the future of the Seahawks. We're going to break down the meteoric rise of our defense, the arrival of some big money playmakers on offense, a worrying injury that's critically testing our depth, and the return of a familiar face that brings more questions than answers. The real question that ties it all together is this: are we forging a new era of dominance, or are we just slapping band-aids on old wounds? All right, my fellow Seattle Seahawks fan, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this Monday with the latest on our squad, I gotta ask you for a favor. If you, the one who watches the Seahawks Insider Report and digs our analysis, haven't subscribed yet, please, do me a solid and smash that subscribe button. It's absolutely crucial for the channel and for making sure our community of 12s keeps on growing. Seriously, thank you for the support. What if I told you our defense is one step away from being not just good, but dominant on a level we haven't seen since the glory days of the Legion of Boom? Look, this isn't just fanboy optimism, it's a cold, hard look at what Mike Macdonald is building. Brick by brick. The transformation we saw last season was just the appetizer. In 2025, the expectation is for this unit to crash the NFL's elite party, and the reasons why are crystal clear and absolutely terrifying for our opponents. The foundation of this confidence starts right where games are won and lost, in the trenches. Our pass rush was already a top 10 pressure machine last year, with Leonard Williams, a boy Mafe who's becoming more and more of a monster, and a rising Derek Hall combining for 25 sacks. Now, add four-time Pro Bowler DeMarcus Lawrence from Dallas to that equation. His arrival isn't just a reinforcement, it's a declaration of war. Hall, who took a ridiculous leap in 2024, summed up the new mindset. He's not just playing on raw power anymore, but with the confidence and technique that Macdonald and coordinator Aiden Durd have drilled into him. He talked about honing in on the small details, the very soul of a scheme that looks simple but is lethally effective. And having Lawrence around, according to Hall himself, is like a cheat code for learning. He gets to see how a dominant vet reads the game, processes information, and attacks. It's like having a living, breathing war manual in the locker room. And it doesn't stop there. The front office got aggressive in the draft, trading up to grab safety Nick Emenwari, a player Macdonald himself compared to Kyle Hamilton, one of the most versatile weapons he's ever coached. Emenwari can play in the box to stuff the run and drop back in coverage, adding a layer of unpredictability we were desperately missing. He joins a secondary that's already a minefield for any quarterback, with Julian Love, the hurricane that is Devin Witherspoon, and the speedster Rick Woolen, all of whom already have Pro Bowls on their resumes. The beauty of Macdonald's scheme is this deceptive simplicity that just unleashes talent. Emenwari himself said the focus in practice is on having great eyes and being in a good position, fundamentals that, when executed by elite athletes, become unstoppable. The trial by fire comes right away week 1 against Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. But the mentality has shifted. There's a different kind of hunger in the air, a desire not just to compete, but to impose their will. As Derek Hall promised, they're going to step on that field to be dominant, play fast, play physical, and bring home the W. But can this defense, as scary as it looks on paper, really carry the weight of an offense that is still one giant, very expensive question mark? Do you really think $100 million buys you a championship? Well, John Schneider is betting the house that it does, and the first real test of that gamble could come against none other than Patrick Mahomes. The reinvention of our offense under Clint Kubiak has been the talk of the town, with a new O-line coach and a whole bunch of changes at the skill positions. But two of those changes, the most expensive and talked about ones, might finally hit the turf at Lumen Field this Friday. We're talking about Sam Darnold, the quarterback we handed a 3-year, $100.5 million contract after the best season of his career with the Vikings, and Cooper Kupp, the former Super Bowl LVI MVP we brought in on a $45 million deal. The chance to see them on the field for the first time in our colors against the reigning AFC champs, the Chiefs, is more than just a preseason game. It's the first glimpse of the future our front office paid for. The logic for playing them comes from the opposing coach himself. As Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times pointed out, Andy Reid, the Chiefs coach, likes to get his starters some reps in the preseason. Against Arizona, Mahomes played just 3 snaps, long enough to throw a touchdown pass and take a seat. Mike Macdonald hinted that if Kansas City's starters play, ours will too. Coach Reid has a history of playing his guys in the game, so our guys will have an opportunity next week, McDonald stated. This is a total switch-up. In our first game, a tie against the Raiders, we saw Drew Lock and the rookie Jalen Milroe running the show, with rookies Torrey Horton and Jake Bobo as the starting wideouts. Now, it's a whole different ballgame. The question hanging in the air isn't just if Darnold and Kupp will play, but how will they play? How long will they be out there? Will we see that initial chemistry between a QB trying to prove he's worth every penny and a wide receiver who needs to show he's still got that genius that made him a legend? This isn't just any test. It's a public audit of our biggest financial gamble. An elite defense can give you a floor, but in modern football, an offense that doesn't pull its weight is a dead anchor. Their debut against a defense like the Chiefs, even for a few snaps, will give us the first real clue as to whether Schneider's investment was a stroke of genius or a catastrophic mistake. And while the offense preps for its big premiere, a piece of news from behind the scenes on defense is flashing a red alert that could compromise the entire structure Macdonald is building. Just when we start dreaming of an impenetrable defense, reality hits us with a sucker punch right to the gut. The news that starting linebacker Tyrese Knight is dealing with an undisclosed medical issue that could sideline him for several weeks is exactly the kind of vague, terrifying phrase every veteran fan dreads hearing. This is so much more than a simple preseason ding. It's a brutal test of our roster's depth and Mike Macdonald's ability to improvise under fire. Knight, the rookie who blew away all expectations last year, wasn't just another piece in the scheme. He became the damn heart of our defense alongside Ernest Jones. He wasn't supposed to be a starter this early. He stepped in out of necessity, first with Jerome Baker's injury, and then after Tyrell Dodson was surprisingly cut. And both times, he didn't just fill a role, he elevated the entire team. The surge from our defense in the second half of last season had his and Jones's fingerprints all over it. The front office made it a priority to keep Jones, planning to build the defense around that duo. Now, that entire plan is on hold. Macdonald says he expects Knight back for the opener against the 49ers, but you can feel the uncertainty. So who steps up to fill those massive shoes? The first guys in line are Drake Thomas and Patrick O'Connell. Yeah, they both played well against the Raiders, but let's be real, a preseason game against backups is not the same as staring down Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle in Week 1. Thomas seems to have a slight edge, showing great instincts for diagnosing plays and making solid tackles. O'Connell, on the other hand, looked a little vulnerable in coverage, getting beat on a touchdown pass. The issue here is the drop-off. We go from a rising Pro Bowl potential starter to a guy who, while competent, still has to prove he can handle the grind as an NFL starter. Thomas has just 41 career defensive snaps with the Seahawks. Are we really ready to bet our defense on him? Macdonald's genius in developing linebackers and the presence of playmakers on the D-line can ease the pressure, but they can't work miracles. This injury exposes an uncomfortable truth. Our depth, especially at critical positions, could be our downfall. And while we're dealing with the absence of a young pillar, a veteran, a face from our past, returns to Seattle, bringing a whole different perspective and a new dynamic to the locker room. While a pillar of the present is fighting to get on the field, a ghost of the past is returning to Seattle. But make no mistake, this isn't the same Shaquille Griffin we let walk back in 2021. His comeback is more than just a signing for depth, it's a reflection of the passage of time and the cultural shift inside our team. When Griffin got here as a rookie in 2017, he'd listened to advice from vets like Richard Sherman, but, as he now admits, he couldn't fully grasp where they were coming from. Now, 9 years later, a father of three, he's the veteran. The image of him talking to Sherman on the practice field, with their roles now completely flipped, is powerful. Griffin told Sherman, "I finally get what you guys were saying." He talks about dad's strength and longer warm-ups, a shift in perspective that only comes with experience. He didn't just come back as a player, he came back as a potential leader. The decision to return, he said, was a no-brainer. Even with a new head coach in Mike Macdonald, who's only 7 years older than him, and a different defensive scheme, Griffin felt at home. He's raving about the new defense, which still lets him be aggressive and use his best trait, getting hands-on in press coverage. But the question that really matters is, what's his role going to be? With Devin Witherspoon and Rick Woolen locked in as the starting corners, and with Josh Jobe having cemented himself as the number 3 corner since midway through last season, Griffin's path to significant playing time is not going to be easy. He even acknowledges it, saying he's ready for whatever role they need him in, whether it's in specific packages or, more importantly, as a mentor to the younger guys, teaching them the tricks of the trade he learned from Sherman himself. His presence in the locker room is an undeniable asset, a bridge between the Legion of Boom era and McDonald's new generation. He's the living memory of what worked and what didn't. But on the field, he's got to prove he can still hang at a high level. Griffin's return closes a loop, but it also opens up a fundamental question about our team's identity. Are we chasing the future, or are we clinging to echoes of the past to guide us? The stage is set for a season opener that could be one for the ages. On one side, you've got Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp carrying the weight of expectation, tasked with turning our offense into a point-scoring machine. On the other, you have Mike Macdonald commanding a defense designed to suffocate quarterbacks and silence road stadiums. But these stories don't exist in a vacuum. They collide on the field, where offensive chemistry and defensive discipline will have to prove themselves under real fire. The preseason clash against Mahomes isn't just a friendly. It's the first chapter of a narrative that could take Seattle from a dark horse to a powerhouse. And when that ball is kicked off, there's no more room for projections or theories. It's going to be execution versus execution, talent versus talent. If Darnold and Kupp connect early, if the defense's pressure hits home, we could be witnessing the birth of a Seahawks team that can scare anybody. But if they sputter, even for a few drives, the doubts will come fast and they will be merciless. In 2025, every single snap is going to count, and the next one could be the one that defines the whole story.